The Flagstaff, Arizona courtroom is a vacuum. Not a breath, not a whisper. The fluorescent lights whisper softly overhead, their antiseptic light spilling over neat wood and tense faces. The air is heavy with the flavor of memory and anticipation. A family once whole now, broken up by signatures and silence. At the center of it all is Judge Eleanor Harper, a woman whose serene demeanor conceals decades of witnessed heartache. She puts on her glasses, her piercing eyes flicking between the individuals seated before her. Individuals who once referred to one another as family, partners, even soulmates. To her left is Kody Brown. His hands folded so tightly, his knuckles turned pale white. He's wearing a navy suit. But all the polish in the world can't mask the tension in his jaw, the exhaustion in his eyes. This isn't the same man the world used to see grinning on TV, surrounded by wives and children and the facade of harmony. This is a man trapped. By truth, by time, by the choices that no longer hide in shadows. Opposite him, the women he once referred to as wives sit apart not by distance but by allegiance. Christine sits straight, as if carved from stone, though her hands shake lightly on the table in front of her. There is something fierce beneath her calm. A sort of pain that has hardened into determination. To her side, Janelle is gazing at the floor, lips puckered, her thoughts 1,000 miles away. She's had enough arguing, enough defending or blaming. She's here for justice, not vengeance. Meri sits at the end of the row, her own posture too rigid to be comfortable. Guilt lingers in her eyes, the silent kind that gnaws a person from the inside out. She looks occasionally in Kody's direction, but his eyes do not meet hers. They have not for a very long time. And then there's Robyn, her face inscrutable. She twitches at the strap on her purse, her eyes flicking defensively around the room. To the world, she's been the faithful one, the final standing pillar of Kody's once great family vision. And yet today, that faithfulness feels more like a burden than a virtue. Reporters mutter in the back bench, cameras poised but held back. For now. The world is listening again, but not from the couch in a living room. This time, it's from a courtroom, where smiles and sound bites are irrelevant. Only facts and truth. Judge Harper clears her throat, her voice measured but weighty with authority. Court is now in session. Case number 24, 1562. Brown versus Brown. The title is almost laughable. A tragic irony. The same name, against itself. A clerk shuffles papers, calling out the appearances. Christine Brown, petitioner. Kody Brown, respondent. Christine tilts her chin up as her name is called. Kody leans forward in his chair, jaw clenching once more. The slightest tremble dances along his fingers. Judge Harper regards the two of them. Her face neither cold nor warm, merely professional. This is a case of disputed ownership of several family properties in Flagstaff, Arizona, and Coyote Pass. Is that right, counsel? The district attorney, an elegant woman called Alicia Daniels, stands up from her chair. Her voice is crisp, professional, but not vicious. Yes, Your Honor. But it involves a larger issue, one of trust, deceit, and misrepresentation of financial and legal arrangements entered into under fraud. A murmur runs through the courtroom. The judge brings up her gavel lightly, and the room quiets once more. Kody's lawyer, Mr. Reynolds, is next. He is older, neatly dressed, with the confident snootiness of a man who's represented impossible men in the past. Your Honor, we object to the dramatization of this case. This is a straightforward civil matter involving paperwork, not a morality play. Christine's eyes flicker for an instant, a controlled rage smoldering beneath her level demeanor. Judge Harper nods. That will be determined, Mr. Reynolds. Go ahead. The ring of her gavel on wood sounds like thunder crashing through the silence. Alicia Daniels moves forward, standing before the court, her words measured. Your Honor, what we have on our hands is the case of a man who built a family on promises of equality, and then reneged on those promises in the fine print. Her eyes sweep in the direction of Kody, who refuses to meet her gaze. For years, the Brown family shared everything: their homes, their money, their beliefs, and their aspirations. But when the aspirations started to break apart, something darker emerged. manipulation, secrecy, and control. Robyn twitches, her eyes shining with tears as the prosecutor goes on. The evidence will demonstrate that Mr. Brown made changes to property arrangements without full knowledge or approval of his wives. It will demonstrate that some signatures were forged, that documents were selectively filed, and that the most trusting were kept in the dark. The words slice the air like a knife. Mr. Reynolds stands up once more, voice raised somewhat. Your Honor, again, this is a gross mischaracterization. Judge Harper holds up a hand, stopping him. Mr. Reynolds, you will have your say. The courtroom freezes again. Christine sits in silence, her chest rising and falling only shallowly. She recalls the years spent expecting something that was never set down in a fair way, expecting that love was in mutual trust, not secret acts. Alicia finishes reading her opening statement quietly. This isn't just about land ownership, it's about ownership of truth. And today, that truth will no longer be the sole property of one man. Seated, Kody breathes sharply, massaging his temples. His gaze darts to Christine, and just as quickly away. Judge Harper glances in the direction of the defense table. Mr. Reynolds, opening statement. He rises, adjusting his jacket, moving forward with the practiced ease of a seasoned orator. Your Honor, the prosecution wants to make a family feud a spectator sport, but at its core, this case is not about lies. It's about misunderstanding. My client, Mr. Brown, was dealing with complicated financial matters involving numerous properties, trust accounts, and familial responsibilities. He did not do so out of dishonesty, but out of responsibility. He points toward Kody, who nods gravely. This family's dynamic is unusual, yes. But unusual does not equal illegal. All decisions made about property were made openly, with the goal of keeping the family assets safe during a time that was emotionally chaotic. He stands there for a moment, letting the courtroom catch its breath. We will demonstrate that Mr. Brown did not coerce anyone, that he did this out of concern, not control. The true tragedy of this case is not fraud, but broken trust. He takes a seat again, self-assured. The judge's expression reveals nothing. Christine's fists tighten in her lap. She can scream that care does not erase deceit, that duty does not obfuscate truth. But she sits tight, waiting for her turn. There is a long pause. The clock behind the judge's bench ticked quietly, a sound so quiet, but it is almost deafening. Judge Harper speaks at last. This court will hear evidence and testimony from all relevant parties. The goal is not to settle old wounds, but to uncover the truth. Her gavel strikes once more, final and resonant. We begin tomorrow morning with testimony from Mrs. Christine Brown. Kody looks up sharply at the sound of her name. Christine meets his gaze, steady, unflinching. In that moment, all that has passed between them comes to the surface in silence. The vows broken, the walls that came up, the trust that was shattered. He glances away first. The courtroom slowly drains. Whispers fill the room as journalists pound away at their keys. Flashbulbs burst. But Christine pays no attention. She stands, her eyes fixed on the vacant witness stand, the spot where tomorrow she'll have to relive it all. When the final ring of the gavel echoes away, the narrator's tone comes back, soft, contemplative, weighty with truth. When a family founded on faith walks into the courtroom of truth, the law doesn't ask who loved the most, only who lied the least. The sun rises in the morning, streaming through the high windows of the Coconino County Courthouse, casting long strips of amber illumination across the floor of the courtroom. There's a chill in the air, the kind that has nothing to do with temperature but with tension. Reporters pack the benches, pens poised, eyes waiting for the first spark. The gallery is packed. Locals, fans, and critics have all gathered to see what's already being dubbed as the Brown family trial. The clerk bellows. All rise. The courtroom is still as Judge Harper arrives, her black robe flowing, eyes keen. She sits, rapping the gavel once. Court is now in session. Mrs. Christine Brown, are you ready to proceed? Christine just nods. Her attorney Alicia Daniels sitting next to her, smoothing her papers with gentle precision. In the aisle, Kody Brown leans in toward attorney Mr. Reynolds, muttering something under his breath. His face is clenched, his expression impassive. Then Daniels stands up, tall, assured. her voice slicing through the room, with surgical clarity. Your Honor, the prosecution would like to start by clearing the air. This is not a case that has come to us from bitterness or revenge. This is a case about truth. Her words fall like rocks into quiet water. For years, the Brown family constructed a public persona of faith, harmony, and equality. Behind that veil, however, there was a very different type of framework, one constructed from silence, manipulation, and broken promises. Kody tenses. The air changes. We will demonstrate, says Daniels, that the family holdings of property, the Coyote Pass holdings especially, were never meant to be divided equally, notwithstanding repeated oral promises. We will demonstrate that Mr. Brown intentionally left off the names of certain wives from land documents. Signatures were duplicated or fraudulently witnessed, and financial disclosure gave way to one-sided control. The terms falsely witnessed elicit a murmur in the gallery. Judge Harper strikes her gavel. Order. The court will remain silent while counsel makes her statement. Daniels moves a little closer to the jury box. Her tone softer, more measured. This is not about property lines or signatures, Your Honor. This is about years of love and work, emotional, physical, financial, by women who thought they were creating something together, something sacred. She pauses, looking at Christine, then at Janelle. Both women stare straight ahead, emotion contained but apparent in their eyes. The prosecution will demonstrate that Mr. Brown utilized his position as patriarch of the family, a position of trust, to shift power and assets into his name alone, without informing his wives. The proof will consist of email exchanges, bank statements, tape discussions, and witness accounts that illustrate a pattern of dishonesty. Kody can't resist. He hunches forward, his voice low but slicing through the silence. That's not true. I did everything to keep them safe. To keep us safe. Judge Harper's gavel slams down hard. Mr. Brown, you will hold your tongue unless spoken to by the court. Kody sits back, breathing through his nose. A tiny smirk curls up. The sort of smirk that once beguiled folks, these days interpreted as arrogance. Daniels doesn't blink. Defending them, Your Honor, would have been integrity. What Mr. Brown defended was his authority. And that is what this trial will uncover. She sets a thick binder on the table. The clang sounds across the courtroom, like a clap of thunder. In this binder are records acquired through legal discovery, property filings, tax documents, and trust deeds. Each will have a uniform exclusion. Christine Brown's name, Janelle Brown's name, and previously, Meri Brown's name. The only recurring name is Kody Brown's, and in a few instances, Robyn Brown's. Everyone's gaze is on Robyn. Her face blanches, hands shaking ever so slightly as she twists her wedding ring. She leans over and whispers something to her lawyer, eyes darting hesitantly in Christine's direction. Daniels goes on, her voice unwavering. We will also share a December 2021 recording, an exchange between Mr. and Mrs. Brown, recorded by their grown daughter, in which Mr. Brown said, and I quote, "If you walk out, you walk off the land. That's the deal." Christine's eyes flutter closed. That memory, that evening sears behind her eyelids. Kody grumbles again, this time aloud. That was a private conversation, not evidence. Daniel's eyes lock onto his. Secret words tend to bear open lies. Mr. Brown. The courtroom whispers again. Judge Harper's gavel comes down again. That's enough. Proceed, Miss Daniels. The prosecutor nods. Your Honor, our witnesses will be Mrs. Christine Brown, testifying to verbal promises made by the defendant about the distribution of property. Mrs. Janelle Brown, testifying about her monetary contributions to the acquisition of land. Mrs. Meri Brown, testifying to her knowledge about improper document filings. And Mrs. Robyn Brown, who we believe will affirm the existence of independent financial trusts, controlled exclusively by Mr. Brown. Robyn's eyes widen slightly. The gravity of her possible testimony registers, a reality she's not sure she's prepared to confront. Daniels takes a step back, her last words soft but biting. This court will witness the truth, not the version on television, not the version edited. The truth of a man who vowed equality and achieved control. The truth of women who trusted, gave, and lost. And the truth of what occurs when love is viewed as contract instead of a covenant. She sits back down. Her heels click on the marble floor like punctuation. Judge Harper breathes slowly. the feeling finally shown in her calm face. She moves towards the defense table. Mr. Reynolds, you may respond. Kody's attorney stands, zipping his suit jacket. He smiles graciously, too graciously. Your Honor, I respect the zeal of the prosecution, but what we have here is not dishonesty, but disorganization. My client has run a complicated, unconventional household across several states and decades. Fumbling with paperwork is not proof of ill will. He paces deliberately. Newspapermen. They don't care that Mr. Brown has been the provider, the organizer, and yes, the patriarch of a one-of-a-kind family system. To characterize him as a manipulator is to overlook the decades of love, responsibility, and sacrifice he's provided. He shifts his gaze to Christine. And while Mrs. Brown feels wronged, and I don't disbelieve her feelings, feelings do not amount to fraud. The law demands evidence, not hurt feelings. Christine's jaw clenches, but she remains quiet. Reynolds goes on. We will demonstrate that all property purchases were made in a legitimate fashion, that all of the deals were above board, and that any confusion was the result of emotional miscommunication, not criminal motive. He puts a hand lightly on Kody's shoulder. Mr. Brown isn't a bad guy. He's a man who attempted to reconcile faith, family, and finance, and maybe came up short in one of them. But shortfall is not fraud. His tone is soothing, nearly scripted. Your Honor, we request this court not forget that marriage, particularly plural marriage, is complicated. Feelings run deep, misunderstandings occur. Criminalizing them would be to chastise human fallibility. He sits. Tension hangs heavy, heavy as fog. Judge Harper leans forward. Both arguments have been powerful ones. The court will continue with testimony from witnesses. Mrs. Christine Brown will be the first witness tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. She taps the gavel once. Court is adjourned for the day. Chairs scrape back. Murmurs build and cameras flash once more as the family rises. Christine remains still at first. She gazes across at the vacant witness stand. The seat she'll have to occupy tomorrow and recreate it all. Kody glances towards her for a moment. For an instant of time, the space is smaller, quieter. His eyes implore something unspoken. Perhaps regret, perhaps terror. Christine's face remains impassive, unreadable. She looks away, speaking low so quietly only she can hear. Tomorrow at last I get to tell my truth. The narrator's voice whispers in, gentle, cinematic, almost prayer-like. In a court founded on law, it's not the one shouting the loudest who prevails. It's the one that won't be muzzled. The camera moves up, the courthouse looming tall beneath a gray Arizona sky. The storm has just started. The courtroom is heavier today, as if the walls themselves recall everything that has ever been spoken within them. A pale drizzle outside, tapping ever so lightly on the tall courthouse windows. It is a gray Flagstaff morning, the kind that shrouds the world in tense silence. As the bailiff's call, all rise, booms through the room. The scrape of chairs is like thunder. Judge Harper enters. A single nod in acknowledgement, as all the chairs creak down. Her face is serene, but her eyes retain the same searing awareness, the gaze of someone who knows that today will change everything. Christine Brown sits on the witness stand, her spine stiff, her hands clutching the sides of the wood as though anchoring herself to the moment. The microphone in front of her buzzes softly. She glances over the room, and there he is. Kody Brown, the man who used to hold her hand during births, crying, and family meals. Now he won't even catch her eye. Alicia Daniels, Christine's lawyer, stands up slowly, the murmur of papers the only noise. Mrs. Brown, she says softly, thank you for coming. Could you explain to the court, in your words, why you brought this case? Christine breathes in, slow and deep, as if preparing to be hit. Year after year, I thought we were equals. That's what Kody always told me. Equal in love, in religion, and in what we created together. Equality only holds if everyone's truth matters. And mine didn't. The courtroom leans in. Even the reporters take a moment to stop typing. We all lived on common ground, she goes on. Coyote Pass was going to be our family fantasy. All of us building houses next to each other. We discussed it in front of the cameras, with our children, with the world. But behind the scenes it wasn't the same. I was constantly asking when we were going to start construction. Kody kept telling me it was complicated. Paperwork, taxes, zoning. I believed him. Her voice breaks, but she doesn't break. Not until I was gone did I discover my name was never on the deed. Not ever. I never even owned what I helped pay for. What I thought was ours. A murmur runs through the courtroom. The agony in her voice isn't deafening, but it resonates deep, like truth finally spoken after so many years of silence. Alicia walks over to the evidence table, holding up a manila folder. Mrs. Brown, I'm presenting you with Exhibit A deed for Parcel 3 of Coyote Pass. Do you have any familiarity with this document? Christine nods, gaze intent on it. Yes, I was advised that's where I'd be living. And what names do you find on the line of ownership? Christine's eyes dart toward Kody before she responds. Kody Brown and Robyn Brown. A wave of murmurs sweeps through the courtroom. Robyn casts her eyes downward, wringing her fingers together, her lips quivering. Alicia puts the paper onto the screen for the judge and jury to view. Your Honor, as you can see, there is no mention of Christine Brown's involvement in any of the 5 parcels bought under the Brown family trust. Judge Harper nods, making notes in silence. Alicia faces Christine again. Mrs. Brown, did Mr. Brown ever tell you your name wasn't included? Christine slowly shakes her head. No, he told me it belonged to us all. He said that. I recall because I felt relieved when he said it. I thought we were finally doing something as equals. Alicia moves closer. Did you financially contribute to these properties? Yes, Christine responds definitively. I worked for decades. I assisted with our family's income. I paid part of my proceeds from the show. I even sold jewelry to get out of debt that was attached to the land. She becomes quieter. But when I departed, I had nothing to prove it. On the other side of the room, Kody's attorney, Mr. Reynolds, stands for an objection. Your Honor, this is not pertinent to the legal ownership of the property. Mrs. Brown's emotional involvement. Judge Harper interrupts him curtly. Overruled. Emotional context pertains when there's an issue of trust and consent. Reynolds sits down, obviously frustrated. Christine looks over at Kody. For an instant, their eyes lock. His expression is impassive, but behind the facade something flashes. Guilt? Fear? Or merely fatigue? Alicia moves back. Mrs. Brown, can you describe the night you learned the truth? Christine swallows. It was several months after I left Flagstaff. I was attempting to get some financial things tied up, to have closure. I requested the documents, the deeds, just to check where everything was. When I didn't see my name, I figured there'd been a mistake. So I called Kody. Her voice shakes just a little. He didn't dispute it. He told me, that's the way it is. You abandoned the family, so the property remains with the family. But I was family too. For generations. Her final sentence lingers in the air, unvarnished and chilling. The courtroom is quiet aside from the soft hum of the ceiling lights. Alicia nods gently. Mrs. Brown, did you ever provide written approval to withhold your name? Never, responds Christine instantly. If I'd known, I would have questioned it. But I trusted him totally. I believed love meant I didn't need to double-check the documents. Judge Harper leans forward a little. Did Mr. Brown ever explain to you why he made those choices without your approval, Mrs. Brown? Christine pauses, eyes darting between the judge and Kody. He said it was for tax purposes. But underneath, I think he just wanted control. Perhaps he believed that if he had control of the land, he'd have control of us. A gentle gasp emits from somewhere in the gallery. Judge Harper's eyes narrow. Did he ever threaten to deny access to property or assets if you ever left? Christine nods. Yes, he told me, if you walk away, you walk off the land. I thought he was angry. Now I know he was telling the truth. The kind of truth he constructed quietly behind closed doors. She blots away a tear but refuses to let her voice crack. I didn't come here to seek revenge, she goes on. I came here because I want honesty on paper, not promises. We all gave our lives to that dream. Meri, Janelle, even Robyn. But somewhere along the line, the dream became his. Alicia nods, No further questions at this time. Judge Harper turns to the defense. Mr. Reynolds, your witness. Reynolds rises, adjusting his jacket. His voice is smooth, almost practiced. Mrs. Brown, you indicated you were a member of this family for decades, is that right? Yes. And in all that time you trusted Mr. Brown with finances as you indicated? Yes. So it's reasonable to say he had your authorization to control those assets for the family? Christine leans her head at a slight angle. I trusted him, not permission to erase me. Reynolds smiles slightly. But you signed a family agreement in 2012, didn't you? The one that recognized Mr. Brown as head of household and financial guardian? Christine hesitates. Yes, but that wasn't legal ownership. That was symbolic, about leadership. Symbolic or not, Reynolds insists. You signed it. Isn't that so? She nods grudgingly. He edges nearer. So, Mrs. Brown, might it not be that what you refer to as deception was merely misunderstanding? That Mr. Brown thought he was working in the trust you accorded him? Christine holds his eyes, unyielding. Misunderstanding does not involve concealing documents, Mr. Reynolds. It involves honesty, and he didn't provide me with that. The courtroom shifts. The defense attorney stumbles, barely. Christine goes on, her voice firm now, her truth unfettered. I spent years thinking that patience made me a good wife, that quiet made me strong. But silence isn't strength, it's permission. And I gave him too much of it. Even Judge Harper appears to be touched. Reynolds clears his throat, vanquished. No further questions. Christine breathes a little more easily. She looks over at Janelle, who nods back at her with a little smile of pride. As she descends from the stand, the narrator's voice recedes softly into the distance. In every courtroom there is a moment when truth enters. Not in fury but in kindness. Today Christine Brown didn't just retrieve her name. She retrieved her voice. The camera turns to Kody, his face pale, inscrutable. He stands small for the first time against the grand walls of justice. Judge Harper calls in the next witness for tomorrow. This court will reconvene with testimony from Mrs. Janelle Brown at 9 a.m. The gavel rings out. Christine exits, the rain having ceased outside, the sun finally clearing the clouds. For the first time in years, she appears to be a woman who's finally starting to feel free. The next morning dawned with a strange hush. The kind that seemed more of a warning than peace. The courthouse stands tall beneath a washed-out sky, the aged stone walls vibrating with history and decision. The reporters wait outside, cameras clicking, microphones raised in the direction of the doors from which Kody Brown will emerge. Within, the atmosphere is electric, more dense than the day before, like it's waiting to exhale. The instant Christine's testimony concluded, the court of public opinion had already made up its mind. But today, the defense is prepared to. The bailiff demands order. All rise for Judge Harper. She comes in serene and unflappable, sitting down as the gavel comes down once. A sound that is like thunder in a small room. We are reconvened in the case of Brown versus Brown. She declares. Defense may proceed. Mr. Reynolds, Kody's lawyer, stands up from his seat, confidence exuding him like armor. He buttons his dark gray suit jacket, looks at his client, and nods once. Your Honor, he starts. Yesterday we heard an emotional testimony. Moving perhaps, but profoundly subjective. Today we introduce context, clarity and fact. He proceeds slowly in front of the jury box, his voice crisp and calculated. The prosecution casts my client as a manipulative man, a puppet master stringing together a family dynasty. But we will demonstrate that Kody Brown was not the mastermind of deceit. He was the guardian of chaos. A man attempting to keep together a family that the world itself was shredding apart. He glances at Christine, who sits next to her attorney at the plaintiff's table. Mrs. Brown's pain is authentic. No one contests that. But fraud and pain are not equatable. Reynolds stands up and retrieves a folder from the defense table. These are internal family financial arrangements. Dated, notaried, and witnessed. They define Mr. Brown's authority as sole legal agent for decisions regarding property. Both wives, including Mrs. Brown, sign to that. He distributes copies to the judge and opposing attorney. Judge Harper scans the papers hastily. Face impassive. Proceed. Reynolds motions to Kody. Brown, take the stand, please. There's a murmur in the gallery. Reporters lift their pens. Kody rises, smoothing his jacket. He strides to the witness stand with a seasoned calm. Equal parts preacher, equal parts politician. His blonde hair sparkles beneath fluorescent lighting, but his eyes are agitated. Once sworn in, he takes his seat. The microphone buzzes softly as Reynolds approaches. Mr. Brown. The attorney starts. Can you tell me about your position in your family for the years in question? Kody clears his throat, speaking steadily but burdened. I was the head of our family, the protector, the planner. It wasn't control. It was about maintaining order. When you have several households, dozens of kids and communal income, someone's gotta take charge. That rested on me. And did you ever knowingly mislead your wives regarding the ownership of property? Kody shakes his head. No, no, no. Everything I did was for the family's good. We were meant to build together, not fight about who had what. He glances over at Christine. The first genuine eye contact they've shared in days. His voice drops to almost a whisper. Christine knows I wanted her to have her space on the land. We discussed it, but she quit before we worked it out. I didn't leave her out. She left herself. A low whisper circles the room. Christine leans back, wordless but clearly disturbed. Reynolds continues. Can you tell us why some of your property deeds only have your name, or yours and Mrs. Robyn Brown's? Kody exhales. Taxes for the most part. Paperwork had to be processed through one central name for ease. Robyn's credit and mine were linked for legal purposes. It wasn't favoritism. So the thought was not to take from others' ownership. No, Kody insists. It was temporary. I explained to everyone. Once we were settled financially, we'd split everything evenly. Alicia Daniels stands quickly. Objection, Your Honor. The defense is using verbal agreements without written proof. Judge Harper looks at her, then at Reynolds. Sustained. Mr. Reynolds, limit testimony to facts that can be verified. Reynolds nods, changing strategy. Mr. Brown. How did you feel when Mrs. Brown left the family? Kody breathes slowly. I felt blindsided. Betrayed, to be honest. We'd built something together over years. I didn't know why she walked away. Like she just gave up on all that we believed in. And then, sitting here, I feel I'm being punished for trying to keep the family going. He glances down for a moment, the corners of his eyes moistening, though it's impossible to know if from emotion or fatigue. Daniels, the prosecutor, rises to cross-examination. Her voice cuts like a knife. Mr. Brown, you testified that you did not rule out Christine from property ownership, right? Yes. And her name is not on any of the deeds, right? That's correct. But no, but Mr. Brown. Yes or no? Yes, Daniels advances, holding a printed email chain. Here is an email. August 14th, 2020. One that was sent from your email address to your real estate broker. That says, keep Christine's name off of official filings until she commits to the build. Did you compose that? Kody's jaw clenches. Yes. But that was logistics. Logistics, Daniels echoes slowly, or leverage. The courtroom rouses again. Robyn glances away, tears falling down her cheeks. You used ownership as a tool of control, didn't you? Daniels pushes. Christine had her own place in mind. But you kept the land in a hostage, until she remained on your terms. Kody's voice is raised, emotional at this point. No? You have no idea what it's like to see everything come crashing down. I was protecting the dream. Judge Harper brings his gavel down. Mr. Brown, you will regain control of your temper. Kody takes a hard breath and clutches the sides of the stand. I adored them. He grumbles. All of them. I sacrificed everything to that family. Daniel's tone becomes softer but more incisive. Sometimes love and fairness aren't the same thing. Mr. Brown. She addresses the judge. No further questions. Kody remains quiet while his attorney takes down notes. His face grows hard again. as if a wall is being rebuilt block by block. But before he can exit the stand, Judge Harper lifts her hand. Mr. Brown, one question. He looks up. If your motivations were so pure as you claim, why did none of your wives, not one single one, have their names as legal co-owners? Kody pauses. His lips open but no words follow. The silence hangs. All eyes in the room are fixed upon him. At last he breathes softly. Because I didn't think I had to. The words fall like a prayer. Christine's eyes are closed. Janelle breathes silently. Even Meri turns her face away. Tears shining. Judge Harper makes a notation and nods once. You may be seated, Mr. Brown. As Kody sits back down, the atmosphere in the room is altered. His confidence, the authoritative air he habitually carried, is now broken, almost empty. Reynolds leans over and whispers in his ear. But Kody does not reply. His eyes are staring straight ahead. At nothing in general. The judge orders a short recess. Reporters dash out, muttering headlines already being constructed. Kody Brown cracks under cross-examination. Emails reveal hidden land plans. Christine remains seated, observing him. She does not appear victorious, merely exhausted. Perhaps even distraught. For she did once believe in this man. The agony of witnessing his deceptions exposed is almost greater than the deceptions themselves. As the courtroom empties, the voice of the narrator returns. Hushed and measured. In love there are promises spoken from the heart. In court there are promises written on paper. Where truth begins is where they differ. The gavel rings one last time, echoing across the fading out chamber. Tomorrow Janelle goes on the stand. And the truth goes deeper than anyone can imagine. The courtroom is charged with tension as morning light streams through the high windows, shattering into fragile beams on the shiny wooden floor. Everyone realizes that today will be incendiary. Christine's voice uncovered the pain. Kody's defense exposed the fissures. But Janelle Brown, the unassuming pillar of the family, keeps the secret that could tip the balance in favor. The bailiff says, "All rise." Judge Harper walks in with the same calm demeanor that has prevented this courtroom from turning into a riot. The gavel comes down once. Court is now in session. Mrs. Janelle Brown, please take the stand. Janelle stands up slowly. She's modestly dressed. But there's a quiet authority to her. A steadiness that has always set her apart from the others. She approaches the witness stand with her chin held high, a calm determination in her step. Once sworn in, she sits, her hands folded. The microphone captures her breath. Slow, deliberate. Prosecutor Alicia Daniels starts. Mrs. Brown, you were married to Mr. Kody Brown for almost 30 years, correct? Spiritually married, Janelle clarifies, speaking in an even tone. We were never officially married. But yes, 30 years. Over that time period, did you and Mr. Brown ever have a conversation about ownership of the Coyote Pass family property? Janelle nods. Many times, it was to be our legacy. Each wife with her section, a home for every branch of the family. We even made up plans together. Christine and I would joke about having our porches facing each other. Her voice breaks a little, but she forces it back under control. But when the paperwork came, something felt off. Off? Daniels asks. The deeds had only Robyn's and Kody's names. I asked him about it. He said not to worry, that it was just for now. But just for now took years. She looks at Kody, and whenever I brought it up, he'd say I was being paranoid or ungrateful. Daniels nods, striding slowly. Did you ever sign anything relinquishing your right to ownership? No, never. But we were trained not to question him. That's the beauty of love that morphs into control. It whispers, not shouts. You come to accept the silence as peace. A heavy silence descends on the courtroom. Even the judge leans forward a little. Eavesdropping, Daniels inches closer to the witness stand. Mrs. Brown? Do you know about any secret deals regarding the land? Janelle's eyes flicker. She opens her bag and pulls out a folded paper, creased and aged. Yes. This. She unfurls it slowly and hands it to the bailiff, who takes it to the judge and then the prosecution. What is this document? It's an internal family accountant memo, 2 years ago. It describes a payout from our joint family account into an LLC controlled by Kody and Robyn alone. The note reads, Land consolidation for long-term estate control. That's not what we had planned. The courtroom gasps. Cameras fire off. Kody leans over to his attorney, muttering furiously. Reynolds stands immediately. Objection, Your Honor. The document is circumstantial and lacks verification. Judge Harper scrutinizes the paper. Overruled. It will be admitted as Exhibit 7. Daniels returns to Janelle. Mrs. Brown? Why didn't you bring this forward sooner? Because I thought he'd fix it. Because part of me still wanted to believe him. Her gaze meets Christine's. We all did at one point. Christine gently nods, her face streaked with tears. She doesn't even try to conceal. Daniels concludes softly. No further questions. Defense Attorney Reynolds stands, his voice smooth and low. Mrs. Brown, you indicated that you weren't legally married to Mr. Brown. Isn't that true? That's true. So under the law, you had no contractual claim to any marital assets. Not this property. Is that also true? Janelle's jaw clenches. Legally perhaps not, but morally, spiritually, we built this life. But court is not about morality, Mrs. Brown. It's about law. He takes a deliberate step forward. So what you're telling me is, you were entitled to part of the property, even though you never had your name legally attached to it. Right? I earned that entitlement, she retorts. From 20 years of effort, raising kids, paying bills, and believing in a dream that he promised. Reynolds rests against the podium. So you're saying you trusted him blindly? I'm saying I trusted my husband. Maybe that was the mistake. The words strike like a gavel before the judge has even opened his mouth. Reynolds hesitates, afraid that pushing harder will make him sound all the more sympathetic to the jury. He straightens his back. No further questions. Janelle breathes deeply, her shoulders finally relaxing after days. Judge Harper's eyes turn to Kody, her voice calm. Mr. Brown, is the defense ready to counter this new evidence? Reynolds looks down at his notes. We would like a brief recess to confirm authenticity. All right, the judge says. 30 minutes. When the judge leaves, the room is filled with whispers. Christine moves towards Janelle, her voice shaking. You held on to that paper all this time? Janelle nods. I wasn't sure when or how to play it, but after watching you stand there yesterday, I couldn't remain quiet. Christine clenches her hand. You just flipped the whole thing around. At the far side of the room, Kody closes his briefcase with a thud, his voice low and angry. You think you're saving the family, Janelle? You're tearing it apart. Janelle spins, her composure returning. No, Kody. You did that when you stopped being honest. Robyn's eyes are bloodshot, her hands shaking as she whispers. He was trying to protect us. But Janelle doesn't even glance at her. Protecting the truth means letting it breathe. You can't keep it buried forever. The mind's eye pans out, reporters murmuring, Christine and Janelle standing side by side for the first time in years, and Kody sitting at the defense table, his empire of domination openly unraveling beneath the weight of his own paper trail. The narrator's voice returns, low and movie-like. In every family founded upon secrets, someone always holds the receipts. And when the truth finally comes to light, it doesn't whisper, it roars. The scene fades as the gavel rings for the last time in the distance. The courthouse is colder today. The sun that used to pour through the windows now lies behind gray clouds, illuminating only the clinical glow of overhead lighting. Everyone knows it's coming. The change, the unwinding, the truth forced onto the surface. Judge Harper walks in. Her eyes scan the room, determined and unyielding. Court is now in session. The prosecution is welcome to call its next witness. Alicia Daniels rises, crisp and collected. Your Honor, the prosecution calls Mr. Thomas Avery, ex-accountant to the Brown family. A low murmur runs through the court. Reporters scramble into notebooks. Kody's eyes flash, jaw clenching. He knows Avery, he trusted him, or at least he believed he did. The bailiff leads Thomas Avery to the stand. Mid-50s, salt and pepper hair, glasses sitting politely on the end of his nose. He seems uncomfortable, the sort of fellow who prefers the raw data of spreadsheets over the glare of spotlights. Once sworn in, he sits, adjusting his tie. Mr. Avery, Daniels starts. You manage financial records for Kody Brown and his family between 2018 and 2023. Yes? Yes, ma'am. Can you describe for the court what your function was? I handled their joint family finances, tax returns, real estate transactions, and paperwork for their Coyote Pass land venture. Daniels nods. Tell me about that project. Were all wives included as co-owners on financial documents? Avery pauses. No, Mr. Brown and Mrs. Robyn Brown were the only ones included on formal ownership papers. Christine and Janelle share a look. Their worst suspicions confirmed. Why was that, Mr. Avery? Daniels asks. Mr. Brown told me to roll everything into one LLC, Brown Family Estates, with himself and Mrs. Robyn Brown as the managing members. He claimed it was for tax efficiency. But Avery hesitates, a look of guilt washing across his face. Eventually it came out that wasn't the whole picture. The courtroom murmurs. Judge Harper sits forward. Go on, Mr. Avery. I was instructed to write a memo, the one Mrs. Janelle Brown brought in yesterday. It detailed plans to ultimately transfer ownership shares to the other wives after they demonstrated long-term commitments to the Flagstaff venture. Daniel's eyes harden. Are you telling me that the women's rights to their property were contingent upon their compliance with Mr. Brown's rules? Avery lets out a slow breath. Effectively, yes. A murmur runs through the gallery. Robyn hides her face. Christine's lips are shaking. She doesn't know whether she's going to scream or cry. Kody shifts uncomfortably in his chair, clearly upset. His lawyer stands. Objection, speculation. The witness can't testify to intent. Judge Harper nods. Sustained. Mr. Avery, limit your answers to factual knowledge. Avery nods. Factually speaking, there were internal notes, emails, where Mr. Brown referred to Christine and Janelle as financially unstable participants. He said it would be unwise to grant them direct ownership. Daniels holds up a printed email chain. Are these the emails you're referring to? Yes, those are mine. She steps closer to the jury. These emails demonstrate that Kody Brown intentionally withheld placing his wives' names on property deeds, even after years of joint financial contributions. Mr. Avery, did you ever raise concerns about this? Avery nods weakly. Yes, I did. He explained it was family businesses, and loyalty to keep quiet. Daniel speaks in a hushed tone. So why aren't you quiet today? Avery's face sets. Because loyalty isn't supposed to resemble fear. The courtroom falls silent. You could hear the hum of the air vent. Daniel steps back. Her work accomplished. No further questions. Kody's lawyer Reynolds stands to cross-examine. His smile is tight, his tone measured. Mr. Avery, how long have you been cooperating with the prosecution? 2 months. And during those 2 months, you've provided documents in return for immunity, haven't you? Yes, partial immunity for testimony. Reynolds nods slowly, allowing that to sink in with the jury. So in order to protect yourself from potential fraud charges, you've conveniently chosen to place blame on my client. Avery stiffens, the accountant's composure returning. I didn't place blame. I corrected it. Reynolds walks up and down in front of the stand. Did Mr. Brown ever specifically instruct you, in writing, to defraud his wives? No, but no further questions. The defense relaxes, content. But the damage is done. The quiet that follows isn't relief. It's the oppressive stillness before a storm. Judge Harper looks at the parties. The court will take a 10-minute recess. As she departs, pandemonium breaks out. Reporters yell, cameras click. Christine looks at Janelle. He said we were unstable. After all we built. Janelle shakes her head, her eyes blinding. He was never building with us. He was building around us. Across the room, Kody leans forward, whispering cruelly to Robyn. He distorted what I said. You know that, don't you? He's trying to destroy me. Robyn's hands shake as she clutches her seat. Kody, are those emails real? Kody's expression sets. They're taken out of context. But his voice cracks. Just a little bit. Enough for Robyn to see. Enough for her heart to break. When the court resumes, Judge Harper calls the room to order. She focuses straight on Kody. Mr. Brown, the material put before this court gives me cause for concern regarding intent and transparency. The court will permit the tendering of these emails for authentication. Kody's lawyer also nods rigidly. The judge's tone owns. And I want to make something very clear. The distinction between a family spat and financial impropriety is not as wafer thin as you imagine. If it's established that you withheld ownership in bad faith, this case could stretch outside of civil court. The words strike like thunder. Kody's face pales. Christine's lawyer quietly packs up her papers, muttering to her client. He's cornered now. The next move's his. The courtroom gradually empties, whispers filling all the corners. Outside, television news stations announce the breaking news. Accountant testifies. Kody Brown held land hostage. Immunity deal blows case wide open. As the camera of the story widens, the narrator's voice returns. Low, cinematic, cutting through the storm. Secrets are like debts. They always come due. And in this courtroom the balance is finally shifting. But what nobody anticipates is that tomorrow, Robyn Brown will testify, and her words will reveal the most intimate betrayal of all. The air within the courtroom is more oppressive than ever, thick with whispers, tension, and the smell of something shattering. Not the kind that is heard with sounds, but the gentle, irreparable kind, the kind that shifts everything. It's day 4 of testimony, and the world outside the courthouse has already made up its mind. Protesters fill the streets of Flagstaff, half yelling Kody Brown's defense, a family man betrayed, while the other half carry signs that say, "Justice for the wives." But inside, it is only one voice that counts. Judge Harper pushes back her glasses, her voice even. Court is in session. The prosecution can call its next witness. Alicia Daniels rises, her tone even but full of expectation. The prosecution calls Mrs. Robyn Brown. The words strike the room like a whirlwind. Reporters stand up, cameras flash. Even Christine's hands tense on the table. Robyn, the reserved wife, the devoted one, the wife whom many referred to as Kody's favorite, walks hesitantly to the stand. She appears frail but calm, wearing drab gray, her eyes brimming with tears from an insomnia-filled night. She does not look at Kody. The bailiff administers the oath. She recites it softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth." Daniels advances, slow, tentative. "Mrs. Brown, I understand this isn't simple, but can you explain to the court how long you've known about the family's financial organization, specifically ownership of the Coyote Pass property?" Robyn's voice shakes initially. "From the start. Kody and I dealt with most of the paperwork." He told the others they didn't enjoy the details, that it was simpler if I just did it with him. "Did you ever wonder at that arrangement?" She swallows hard. "At first no. I trusted him. I thought he was keeping us safe. But when Christine left, everything changed. I saw how it destroyed him, but also how he blamed her, how he used the land to punish her. I didn't want to see it, but I saw the emails, the ones where he told her she had to prove her loyalty." Christine's eyes close, a tear silently running down her cheek. Daniels leans forward. "Mrs. Brown, to your knowledge, did Mr. Brown ever plan to share legal ownership with his other wives?" Robyn pauses, then shakes her head slowly. He told me it was better this way, that he couldn't risk losing control. He said if their names were on the deeds, they could walk away and take everything." The courtroom stirs, a low rumble of outrage and incredulity. "Did you agree to that?" Daniels asks. "I didn't initially. Then he said something that frightened me." "What did he say?" "He told me, if you love me you'll keep the plan safe. The family relies on you. And I trusted him." She cracks. Guilt in her tone permeates the room. "So you signed the documents?" Daniels says gently. "Yes." Robyn nods, crying now. "All of them. Even when I knew it wasn't right. I thought I was holding the piece together. But really, I was holding the lie together." Daniels moves back, her work almost complete. "Mrs. Brown, just one last question. Why are you speaking out now?" Robyn takes a shaking breath. "Because it's gone too far. This family was constructed on faith. But faith doesn't last without truth. I can't keep his secrets any longer." The courtroom goes absolutely still. Even the judge appears taken aback for a moment. "No further questions, Your Honor." Kody's lawyer stands at once, his voice strained. "Mrs. Brown, you've been under a lot of stress, haven't you? The media, the public, even your ex-sister wives. You'd do anything to save your reputation, wouldn't you?" She stares at him, her eyes red but firm. "No, I'm not saving my reputation. I'm trying to reclaim my soul. Reynolds scowls. Isn't it a fact that you profited most from these deals? The house, the cars, the accounts, all in your name. Guilty, she concedes softly. And I hated myself for it every day. And now you're asking this court to believe you're innocent. She refuses to answer. No, sir, I'm not innocent. I was an accomplice. But I'm not silent anymore. Kody can't stand it anymore. He stands up suddenly, voice thundering across the courtroom. Robyn, stop it. You don't know what you're doing. You're ruining everything we created. Judge Harper bangs her gavel. Mr. Brown, sit down or I will have you removed. But Kody continues shouting. You were supposed to stand by me. You were supposed to protect you. Robyn cuts in, her voice now solid, almost ferocious. That's all I ever did, Kody. I protected you even when you lied to the whole group. Even when you said Christine was crazy, that Janelle was selfish, that Meri was weak. But the truth is, you were afraid. Afraid of losing control. Her words cut through the silence like a lightning bolt. Kody stands stock still. The room is absolute stillness. Robyn goes on, tears shining in her eyes. You defined love as loyalty. But loyalty without truth isn't love, it's bondage. The judge's gavel falls, but it can't drown out the power of what's been spoken. Christine waits, breath shuddering. Janelle covers her mouth. Even Meri, long silent, long removed, dabs at her eyes, muttering under her breath. Finally, the judge gathers control of the room once more. Mrs. Brown, you may stand down. Robyn stands up slowly. She doesn't glance at Kody as she passes him by, just mutters one final line under her breath, picked up by the microphone. I still love you, but not the way I used to. She exits the stand, head down, but freer somehow, as if she's now shed the burden she's had for so long. The judge orders recess. The courtroom hums with tension, reporters running out, jurors hushing, Christine and Janelle wordlessly embracing. Kody sits alone at the defense table, his face white and empty. For the first time, he seems small, not a patriarch, not a leader, just a man trapped by truth. The narrator's voice laps in, soothing but biting, cinematic and definitive. Loyalty once bound them together, deceit tore them apart. But finally, truth, however uncomfortable, was the only force powerful enough to set them free. And as the scene dissolves, we watch Robyn step out into the cloudy afternoon. Flash of cameras, scream of voices, her face streaming with tears, but her footing firm. The courthouse is a different place the next morning. The Arizona sun slices through the blinds like knives, spilling across the courtroom floor, harsh, unforgiving, and revealing. Here's a creepy stillness before the session starts. Cameras flash outside, reporters whisper about Robyn's admission the day before. Inside, however, there's electricity. You can sense it. Something historic is going to happen. Christine, Janelle, and Robyn are seated next to one another for the first time in years. They don't talk, but there's a bizarre harmony in their silence. A common weariness and hope. At the defendant's table, Kody Brown sits alone. He hasn't shaved. His hands ring anxiously, jaw clenched. For the first time, he resembles a man spinning out of control. Not from the courtroom, but from himself. Judge Harper arrives. The gavel thunders. Court is now in session. Mrs. Meri Brown, please take the stand. A collective gasp ripples through the courtroom. Meri stands up. She'd been the quiet one, the loyal one, the first wife who took a back seat when all of it began to fall apart. But as she approaches the witness stand, something in her stance is different. Straighter, stronger, resolute. She has a small tattered envelope clutched in her hand. The bailiff administers the oath to her. Meri extends her hand, her voice firm and steady. I do. Alicia Daniels comes forward slowly, as if coming near a delicate truth. Mrs. Brown, you've been reserved throughout most of this case. But the court realizes that you have something new to share today. Meri nods, her gaze flicking towards Kody briefly. Yes, something I ought to have spoken about years ago. May I know what it is? Meri looks at the envelope, her hands shaking. This is a letter, written by Kody. He dropped it in my room 2 years before Christine departed. I didn't think it made a difference at the time. I figured it was just another one of his tantrums. But having listened to everything, having watched him inflict so much suffering, I understood it was something else. It was a plot. The courtroom leans forward, breath bated. Daniels extends her hand. Would you read it aloud, Mrs. Brown? Meri opens the letter. The paper yellowed, the writing firm and unmistakable. She grips herself. She is shaking at first, then draws strength from each sentence. Meri, I can no longer live like this. The family is disintegrating, and I must provide for the future. Robyn knows that. She's the only one I can trust to continue the name. Christine is unstable, Janelle is defiant. And you've stopped believing in me. I'll make sure you're all taken care of financially. But the land, the legacy, must stay in the name of someone loyal. Please don't fight me on this. You'll only make things harder for everyone. This is my decision. Gasps ring out in the courtroom. Christine covers her mouth. Janelle shakes her head in shock. Even Robyn's eyes go wide. She seems to be hearing it for the first time. Kody fidgets in his seat, flustered. That was personal. He outbursts. It doesn't sound like it does. Judge Harper bangs the gavel. Mr. Brown, you will keep your mouth shut, or you will be held in contempt. Meri stares him straight down. All these years of silence shattering with every word. You instructed me to burn it, Kody. You said it would bring only suffering. But I held on to it because I knew on some level, this was the truth about you. About what you were doing to all of us. Daniels moves closer, voice level but cutting. Mrs. Brown, this letter suggests intent. A deliberate attempt by Mr. Brown to leave out the other wives from ownership. That's how you see it? Yes, Meri affirms. He used love and faith as instruments of control, to guilt-trip us into accepting inequality. He claimed it was about family, but it was always about control. Did you ever call him on it? Once Meri says in a hushed tone. He told me I was blessed to share his name, that we'd be ex-wives with bad attitudes if he wasn't around. That's when I wasn't so scared that I would lose him, because he'd already gone. There's a murmur of shock from the audience. Kody clamps down on his jaw. He glances at his attorney, leaning close, shouting quietly, but his words are lost under the air of tension. Daniels raises the letter to take the record. Your Honor, the prosecution moves this letter in as Exhibit E, concrete written proof of Mr. Brown's intention to deceive his family and unite ownership under false claims. Judge Harper nods solemnly, admitted into evidence. The effect is earth-shaking. The jurors look at each other. The tide has shifted. Daniels backs away, giving Meri room to breathe. No further questions. But Kody's lawyer, Reynolds, stands up right away. His voice oozes with incredulity. Mrs. Brown, you've had this letter for years. Why bring it forward now? Isn't it true that you're bitter? Mad that Mr. Brown chose Robyn over you? Meri inhales a deep breath. Yes, I was mad. I was devastated. But I'm not here because of that. I'm here because I finally learned something about love. It doesn't endure without respect. And Kody stopped respecting us a long time ago. Reynolds walks, looking for a crack. You're telling me you kept this out of righteousness? Meri shakes her head. No, out of fear. But fear doesn't shield you. It only puts off the truth. Her eyes move back to Kody's once more, soft but fierce. You constructed this family on the promise that love makes us stronger. But love constructed on deception always falls. I just wish I'd quit pretending sooner. The courtroom falls silent. Even the cameras cease snapping for an instant. Kody glances at her, his face ghostly pale, his mouth attempting to form words. But there are none. Judge Harper leans forward. Mrs. Brown, you are free to leave. And let me say, your bravery here today will not be forgotten. Meri nods, tears welling as she leaves the stand. Christine stands to meet her halfway, wrapping her in a hug that feels like years of pain finally breaking. The voiceover returns, steady, cinematic, heavy with truth. Sometimes the truth doesn't destroy, it redeems. Meri's silence had been her prison, but in breaking it, she freed them all. The camera would fade on Kody, once more alone, gazing at the letter, the proof of his destruction resting before him. When recess is called by the judge, the gavel rings again. This time, it does not ring like authority. It all feels like the start of the end. The courtroom is full to bursting. All benches, all nooks taken. The tale has spread throughout the country. The sister wives' trial, The headlines now dub it. What began as a family feud over property has become a cable showdown of spirituality, love, and treachery. Outside, demonstrators carry signs that say truth for the wives, and others shout, justice for Kody. Flashing cameras and whispering voices surround the courthouse. But inside, there is an unsettling quiet. Christine Brown testifies. For an instant she appears vulnerable, pale, her hands folded tightly in her lap. But there is something in her eyes that wasn't there. Determination, passion. Alicia Daniels approaches, her voice respectful, but full of intent. Mrs. Brown, you were married to Mr. Kody Brown for more than 25 years. You've characterized your relationship as having been based on faith, shared values, and trust. Was that true? Christine nods, speaking firmly. That's what I thought for most of my life. And when did that start to fall apart? Christine draws in air, a deep, shuddering breath. The night I discovered the recording. A murmur runs through the courtroom. The judge furrows his brow. Recording? Christine nods, her voice shaking but firm. Yes, Your Honor. An audio recording. I stumbled across it by chance, on an old family hard drive from our home computer. It was marked Coyote Plan, private. I was going to delete it, figuring it was just family budget, but something compelled me to listen. The room inclines forward. Daniels is waved on to proceed. Your Honor, the prosecution would like to admit Exhibit 4, an audio file verified and authenticated to be Mr. Kody Brown's. Judge Harper nods. Proceed. Daniels plays. The courtroom is filled with Kody's voice. Unambiguous, assertive, and calculating. Kody recording. We can't keep playing along like they have equal rights. It doesn't work that way anymore. If we give Meri, Janelle, or Christine a voice in the land, they'll just sell it or divide it up when they depart. Robyn's the only one who sticks to the plan. She believes in me, they don't. I'm not going to lose everything because the others crave freedom. A thick silence hangs. Then the recording goes on. Kody's voice growing firm. Kody recording. If Christine questions again, close it down. Say the paperwork is not complete. She'll cry. She always does. But she'll settle down if you speak about the children. She desires harmony, not an argument. The courtroom gasps visibly. Christine covers her eyes as the sound of her ex-husband's manipulation rings out in the room. Kody's face reddens. That tape is taken out of context. He explodes. It's private family affairs. The judge bangs the gavel. Mr. Brown, that's enough. You will hold your peace until it's your time to testify. Christine dabs at a tear, but maintains her dignity. I didn't want to use it. I didn't want the world to hear him like that. But that night, when I heard those words, I realized I was never his partner. I was his project. Daniels gives her space to breathe, then gently asks, Mrs. Brown, how did you feel when you heard it? Christine hesitates, her voice cracking with raw emotion. Like my entire marriage had been a script. His written fear directed. I gave him my youth, my loyalty, my faith. And he used everything to create a world where his power was the only thing that counted. And yet you remained. She nods. For the children. For the dream we were taught was sacred. But a dream founded on control is a nightmare. And I awoke too late. The courtroom is still, each word striking like a hammer. Daniels nods. Thank you, Mrs. Brown. No more questions. As she moves back, Kody's attorney, Reynolds, stands up at once. He appears restless, irritable, his tone bitter. Mrs. Brown, this alleged recording was on your home computer, right? How do we know that it wasn't tampered with? Christine looks at him calmly. Because it's not my voice. It's his, and he knows it. Reynolds smirks. You want us to believe that a guy who's been on the national news for years would implicate himself like that? Yes, Christine asserts. Because for all those years, Kody felt he was above it all. No one would ever challenge him. Reynolds moves in closer. And yet you waited so long to say it. Convenient, don't you think? Just as soon as the public sympathy has swung against him. Christine's eyes blaze with contained anger. Do you have any idea what it is to live in silence? To be made to feel that speaking out makes you disloyal, questioning makes you unfaithful. I waited because I was scared, not of him, but of what I'd lose. But the truth does not care about timing. It waits for courage. The room drops into another silence. Even Reynolds drops his head. Judge Harper clears her throat. Mrs. Brown, this court appreciates your honesty. The tape will be kept as evidence. Christine smiles, through her tears now. Thank you, Your Honor. Stepping down, Robyn rises quietly from her seat, and in a sudden gesture, reaches out and touches Christine's hand. The two women, who only days before were rivals, stand together now. Kody stares in dismay, the power he once wielded slipping away from him. The narrator's voice interjects, low and cinematic. For years their silence was his strength, but now their unity was his downfall. The truth no longer whispered, it roared. Christine turns to face Kody one final time. Her voice, steady but unyielding, rings out over the silence. You said love was loyalty, Kody, but real love is freedom. The judge calls for a recess. The gavel comes down. Kody pounds his fist on the table, his anger and desperation causing his voice to shake. You're all betraying me. You wouldn't even be here if it weren't for me. But no one responds. Christine, Meri, Janelle, and Robyn exit the courtroom, side by side, no longer as sister wives, but as women who at last found their voices. Outside, the Flagstaff sky growls with faraway thunder. The camera holds on Kody alone at the defense table, his kingdom of silence collapsing around him. The narrator's voice comes in for the final line. In the courtroom of truth, even the loudest voice must hear the echoes of his own words. The courthouse is charged, vibrating with tension. The atmosphere is heavy, as if all the secrets, all the whispered deceptions, and all the tears of decades past hang suspended in the air. Today, the last witnesses will testify. The final fragments of the puzzle before Judge Harper hands down her verdict. Kody Brown sits in the defense table, rigid, his fists balled. He has not spoken to anyone. He looks back and forth between the judge, the prosecutor, and his old wives with a nervous intensity. The walls are closing in. Judge Harper appears. The gavel rings out with a sharp, cautionary sound that echoes around the room. Court is now in session. The prosecution is permitted to call its witnesses. Daniel stands, Your Honor, we would like the children of the Brown family who are old enough to testify. Their testimony is key to understanding the effect of these rulings. Whispers spread around the room. A few Brown children stand and walk to the witness stand, clearly apprehensive but resolute. Garrison Brown, Kody and Christine's oldest son, speaks first. His voice is firm. I watched how my dad treated Mom and the other wives. I heard talk about the land. He wanted to control everyone. And he did it by using fear. Daniels takes a step closer. Can you describe an example? Garrison swallows. There was one evening when he told if Mom left, she would be out on the street. I recall Mom crying. I recall Janelle and Meri speaking in hushed tones, afraid, and Robyn just trailed behind him, hoping to maintain harmony. The courtroom whispers. Kody's jaw clenches, a quiver in his hand. Aspen Brown, another of Kody and Robyn's daughters, is next. I don't think Dad ever meant to hurt anybody. She speaks softly, but he made choices that were not fair. Christine, Meri, and Janelle didn't get a vote on the land. That created arguments and hurt feelings. I didn't know why he wouldn't listen. Daniels takes a step back. Thank you. No further questions. Reynolds stands up for cross-examination. Kids, did your dad ever explain to you that he was protecting the family? That he was making the tough choices so that everyone would be taken care of? Aspen nods. Yes. But the manner in which he did it. It was like punishment. Garrison adds, we loved him. But it wasn't right. And we knew the other wives were wounded. The defense remains silent, knowing the children's testimony has not eased the case. It has reaffirmed the story of emotional control and manipulation. Judge Harper clears her throat. The court will now hear closing statements before final deliberation. Daniel stands first, speaking in a quiet but stern tone. Your Honor, this case is about more than land. It's about respect, fairness, and honesty. For years, Kody Brown controlled his family through fear, secrecy, and manipulation. Today, through testimony, documents, emails, letters, and recordings, we've seen the truth. The family he claims to have loved was held hostage by his decisions. Justice is not about revenge. It's about balance. It's about acknowledging the truth, no matter how painful. Reynolds stands up, calm but guarded. Your Honor, my client constructed a life, a family, and a home. The choices he made were never sinister. They were challenging. Yes, and perhaps poorly explained. But Kody Brown acted in what he thought were the best interests of the family. There is no intent to mislead, only intent to guard. He takes a moment looking over at Kody, whose face pales but remains firm. And in the courtroom, intent is what counts. Errors do not equal malice. Judge Harper nods. She reclines in her chair, her eyes sweeping the room, reading the tension in every expression, every hushed conversation. The jurors observe, scribbling notes, silent but intent. Hours of testimony have been heard by this court. Dozens of documents, letters, emails, and recordings read. Each witness has testified honestly to the best of their ability. She takes a moment of silence. The quiet is near asphyxiating. Now, this court's duty is to render a judgment, not in wrath, not in vengeance, but in recognition of truth, fairness, and justice. Kody hunches forward, hands tightly clenched. His lips curl as though he yearns to speak but isn't allowed. The camera would pan across the wives. Christine, Janelle, Meri, and Robyn, their faces strained, bearing the burden of years of hurt and deceit. For one moment, they are together, their common strength at last radiant. Judge Harper looks at her notes for the final time. This court will adjourn for deliberation. We will be back in short order with the final verdict. As the gavel rings, journalists whisper and cameras flash, tension reaching almost unbearable levels. Deep and cinematic, the narrator's voice resonates in the courtroom and among the audience. Every secret has a reckoning. Every lie finds a witness. And every family, however broken, must confront the truth before they can heal. Outside, clouds mass over Flagstaff, laden with the threat of rain, the ultimate setting for what is soon to pass. The courtroom lies still, stretched tight with expectation. Even the common buzz of murmurs has disappeared, the tension snapping only on the cusp of what is soon to happen. Outside, rain starts to fall in sheets over Flagstaff, pounding against the courthouse windows, as if the world itself waits with bated breath. Judge Harper enters, her robe flowing with measured authority. The gavel falls, sharp, ringing, absolute. Court is now back in session for the delivery of judgment. Kody Brown sits tense at the defense table, hands folded, jaw clenched. He knows the tempest hath arrived. His ex-wives sit as one, their faces firm, yet tempered by the relief that comes with being finally heard. Judge Harper clears her throat. Her tone is serene but heavy with months of hearsay, proof, and sorrow. This case was never just about property. It was about truth, fairness, and the emotional toll of power abused. Throughout these proceedings, the court has heard letters, recordings, emails, and sworn testimony from several witnesses, including grown children who witnessed years of manipulation, secrecy, and control. She pauses, allowing the force of her words to sink in. Kody Brown, it is evident that your manipulation of the family's assets and finances was carried out with the goal of concentrating power, to the detriment of other family members' rightful involvement. Although no bodily harm was done, the relational and emotional damage has been extreme. Kody shifts uncomfortably in his seat. His attorney opens his mouth to object, but the judge stops him with a raised hand. Of course, the court also understands that this was not strictly an act of malice. It was an act of fear, an act of misplaced loyalty and desire for survival, though survival of self, and not family. Nevertheless, the law demands responsibility. She points toward the evidence submitted. Thus, the court orders that the Coyote Pass property is to be divided equally between the four wives, Christine, Janelle, Meri, and Robyn. Each is to have legal title to their rightful share. All future decisions made concerning the property are to be made collectively, with openness and agreement by all. Gasps ring out in court. Christine holds Janelle's hand. Meri tears up, and Robyn breathes out slowly. A burden released. Kody sits immobile, his face white, the truth finally registering. Judge Harper's eyes rest on him. In addition, all internal communication, letters and recordings pertaining to control and exclusion are to be put before the court for review and acceptance of the court's ruling. Manipulation, regardless of how benevolent it may appear, carries repercussions. The courtroom is still, and then Christine slowly rises, advancing to the front. She fixes her eyes on Kody, her tone authoritative but resolute. We constructed a life together. We loved, we hoped, we believed. But love without truth is not love, it's control. I forgive what I can, but I will no longer be silent. Janelle follows next, her voice soft but unflinching. I've carried the weight of years in silence. Today that weight is lifted. This is not revenge. This is restoration. Meri's voice is soft but filled with power. Truth isn't always easy. It hurts, it exposes, it shakes foundations. But it's the only way forward. Finally, Robyn, the quiet one who carried secrets for the family, speaks. We all shared in silence at some point. But today silence stops. The family can heal, and the truth will be what steers that healing. Kody finally rises, shaking, his voice barely above a whisper. I didn't want to hurt anyone. Judge Harper's eyes lock onto his, unflinching. Intent does not wipe away impact. Mr. Brown, the law and the conscience require responsibility. Justice is delivered today, not for punishment's sake, but for truth, equity, and the possibility of healing. The gavel falls once more. It is final, resonating through the room like the end of a long, agonizing book. Outdoors, the rain has diminished to a drizzle. The cameras blaze, illuminating the wives emerging from the courthouse side by side, not simply as survivors, but as women who had reclaimed their voices, their dignity, and their rightful legacy. The narrator's voice swells, cinematic and deep. In the end, truth is louder than fear. Justice is more powerful than loyalty founded on deceit. And even in families torn apart by deception, redemption can happen when courage aligns with clarity. The sister wives learned that the most difficult fights result in the most enduring peace, and that freedom once exercised cannot be revoked. And as the courtroom clears, Kody stays seated, alone with the burdens of years, knowing that the past can never be remade, but the future can now be shared, honestly, openly, and justly. Fade out. The rain keeps falling, washing, renewing, and bearing within it the promise of a new beginning, for a family forever altered. That is the end of the Sister Wives Courtroom saga, an odyssey of betrayal, reality, and ultimately redemption.